Divinely revealed, 12 miraculous keys to effortlessly manifest your heavenly desires. In the heart of a quaint English village, nestled among lush, rolling hills, Mary gathered her little family one starlit evening within the warm embrace of their chapel. Candles flickered like heavenly stars, casting a divine glow upon the wooden pews. As they clasped hands in prayer, a wave of anticipation rippled through the air. It was then that Father Matthew, his eyes glistening with revelation, proclaimed in a voice that seemed to echo from the heavens, "My dear children, within these sacred walls lie 12 miraculous keys to unlock your deepest desires." Mary gasped, her heart racing with the potential promise that danced above their heads. The priest spoke of vast possibilities: healing, love, and unending joy, all within reach for those with unwavering faith. She could feel the electrifying buzz of divine energy in her bones, a conviction that filled her spirit with warmth. This wasn't mere rhetoric, it was a whisper from God, tantalizing and profound. Days turned into weeks, and Mary began to witness small miracles, moments that felt orchestrated by a higher power. Her eldest, Johnny, found a lost toy hidden for months, while her daughter Lily helped a neighbor in need, all of which seemed to echo the essence of the 12 keys. However, these little joys often fell on skeptically deaf ears. James, her husband and self-proclaimed man of reason, shook his head when she shared her findings. "Mary, these are coincidences, not divine interventions," he would chuckle, casting a shadow on her blossoming faith. The tension manifested itself at the dinner table, the once warm family center morphing into a battlefield of belief. "Trust in the unseen, James," Mary pleaded one evening, the soup cooling in front of him. Yet he retorted, "You're chasing phantoms, love. Our faith should be rooted in reality." But then darkness clouded their home. Their youngest, sweet Lily, fell gravely ill. It felt as if the very foundation of hope shook beneath Mary's feet. In that moment of despair, she knew what she had to do. Gathering the community for a prayer vigil outside the chapel became her next brave step. Under the high ceilings filled with echoes of faith, neighbors and friends all came together, holding hands, hearts pounding as they beseeched the heavens for a miracle. The atmosphere thickened with an energy all its own. As prayers rose and mingled with the flickering candlelight, a hush fell over the crowd, voices lowered, eyes glimmered with a reverent fear. Then, like a thunderclap breaking through a storm, a brilliant golden light illuminated the altar, and whispered signs of grace unfolded for all to witness. Murmurs erupted, joyful gasps spread, and a profound connection rippled through the congregation. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the light shimmered and the villagers stood in awe, an inexplicable peace cascaded over Mary. In that awe-inspiring moment, joy flooded her heart, yet doubts from James loomed like a storm cloud. With their marriage on shaky ground, an unspoken question hung heavy in the air: what if their desires intertwined with a greater purpose? The mirth of faith and the shadows of skepticism had created a rift. In the silence that followed the miraculous events in the chapel, Mary found herself at a crossroads. Could her faith be the bridge that brought them back together? As warmth enveloped her, a new miracle manifested, a touch that ignited belief. Yet, even amidst this wonder, a question lingered, echoing in her mind: what if their family's desires were part of a divine tapestry meant to bring unity and hope to all? With a heart hopeful yet heavy, Mary was left wondering where her faith journey would lead her next. The candlelight flickered on Mary's face as she watched the congregation filled with hope, their eyes glimmering like constellations in the night sky. The golden light from the altar pulsed softly, radiating a serene warmth that seemed to embrace each soul present. She felt it, an undeniable connection, a weaving of hearts as they prayed for Lily's recovery. Yet, in the back of her mind, doubt still whispered softly but persistently. Would this miracle change James's heart? Would it renew his belief in the unseen, the divine workings that she had cherished? The echo of their earlier conversations loomed over her, creating a tension that was almost tangible. Can I be bold enough to ask the Lord for more? She wondered, clinging tightly to her trust in him. As the prayer vigil continued, Mary raised her eyes toward the altar, her heart craving a deeper manifestation of faith. The air thickened, charged with the presence of the divine, a silent promise waiting to be claimed. Let us reach for the light, she whispered under her breath, feeling a wave of courage coursing through her. She turned to the group, her voice rising above the soft murmurs. Let us ask not just for healing for Lily, but for a restoration of our family's faith. An amen rippled through the gathered souls, a chorus of believers echoing her brave sentiment. The weight of their collective hope hung heavy in the air, and as they prayed together, Mary could almost hear the very fabric of the universe shifting. It was as if angels were stirring, preparing for action. In a remarkable moment, she sensed a tingling warmth on her cheek. Surprised, she reached up to touch it, feeling a soothing presence wash over her. Mary looked around at her friends and neighbors, their faces illuminated not just by candlelight but by an inner glow. They were together in this, united by something greater than themselves. And just then, a bright figure emerged from the shadows of the altar. Father Matthew stepped forward, his countenance transformed, an undeniable radiance surrounding him. Beloved children of God, we have unleashed a divine spark tonight. Be vigilant, for your faith is a beacon. It will guide you to the doors of your desires. Gasps filled the chapel as he raised his hands, palms facing the congregation. The air pulsed, a tangible energy breathing life into their prayers. Mary felt a shiver of awe as the familiar warmth engulfed her again. It was exhilarating yet humbling. She realized this was more than just a local gathering, it was a movement of faith intersecting with heaven. But as hope bloomed like spring flowers in her heart, doubt reared its head again. Was her belief truly enough? Would it bridge the gap between her and James? Would he finally see the miracles for what they were, evidence of a loving Creator? After the vigil, Mary returned home, her spirit lifted yet heavy with anticipation. James sat by the flickering fire, the shadows dancing around him as if mirroring the turmoil within his mind. She could see it, he was wrestling, waiting for a sign. Mary, he began, his voice hesitant, what did we witness tonight? Was that real? Her heart leaped at his words, unsure whether to respond with confidence or caution. It was real, James. I felt it, the love, the hope, it was all present with us. James looked at her, searching her eyes for the truth. But what does it mean for us? Just then, a silence filled the room, pregnant with potential. Mary leaned closer, feeling the stirrings of divine direction. It means that maybe, just maybe, our wishes are part of something much larger, a divine plan that we can't yet see. As they sat there, the warmth of the fire reflecting their intertwined hopes and fears, a question hung in the air: what new revelations awaited them in this sacred journey? Was this just the beginning of their family's unfolding miracle? The air settled in their small, cozy home, heavy with unspoken words. Mary watched as James stared into the flickering flames. Each crackle seemed to echo the very thoughts spinning in his mind. She sensed that deep within him, a struggle was brewing, a battle between skepticism and faith. James, she said softly, what if the answers we seek are already being woven into the fabric of our lives? He turned his gaze toward her, his eyes shining with both confusion and a hint of hope. But how do we know? How do we find those answers, Mary? His question hung between them like a ripe fruit waiting to be plucked. She felt a wave of excitement rush through her. This was the perfect moment to dive deeper, to fight the shadows that lingered around them. Let us pray together, she suggested, the words tumbling out in a rush, infused with eagerness. Tonight, let us lay bare our hearts before him. We can ask for guidance, perhaps he'll show us the way. James hesitated, glancing back at the fire, but there was an unmistakable flicker of curiosity in his eyes. All right, he agreed, though his voice was laced with uncertainty. But if we're doing this, it better be real. Mary smiled softly, sensing a crack forming in his armor of doubt. She took a seat beside him, the warmth of the flames contrasting the growing warmth of her spirit. Together they bowed their heads, the familiar scent of the burning wood grounding them as they reached for the divine. "Dear Father," Mary began, her voice barely above a whisper, "guide us. Reveal your will and help us understand the miracles unfolding around us. We trust in your plan." As they prayed, Mary felt a shivering wave of energy sweep through the room. It was as if the very air shimmered with expectancy. She could sense James's heartbeat match the rhythm of her own rising faith. "And if it is your will," she continued, "may it soften James's heart to see the truths we have yet to recognize, the signs you place before us." The moment she uttered those words, a silence enveloped them, a sacred stillness that felt charged with divine presence. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, glancing at James. The shadows that danced on his face now seemed gentler. "What do you feel?" she asked tentatively, her heart pounding with anticipation. I don't know," he replied slowly, his brow furrowed in thought. "It's like something shifted, a weight lifted, or maybe it was something dropping into my spirit." Mary felt a rush of excitement. "Yes. That's it. It means we're being transformed. This is a sign, James. He's moving in us." But James still looked unsure. His mind was still searching for the logic behind what he felt. Yet within that very tension, Mary could feel the presence of hope begin to unfurl, like the first light of dawn breaking over a darkened horizon. "Maybe," he mused, "maybe this is the path we need to walk together. But how do we know when we've found our way?" "Confidence," she replied, meeting his gaze. "We need to be bold in our belief. It's about trusting him to guide us, to reveal his plan in our lives, even when it's unclear." As they held each other's eyes, the flickering flames danced, illuminating the possibilities before them. A fresh thought sparked within Mary's heart. Let us not only pray for ourselves, but for those who are lost, who need to see his light. Perhaps in reaching out, we will discover more of him. "Oh, Mary!" James exclaimed, the spark of inspiration igniting within him. "That's beautiful. Maybe in helping others, we'll find our own way." The flame seemed to sway in response to his excitement, and together they reached for the divine connection that ignited their spirits. In that moment, they sensed that their path was not just about healing their own doubts but also about becoming instruments of faith and love to others. As they shared their newfound mission, a question lingered in Mary's heart: what miracles awaited them as they stepped out into the world with courage and hope? Would they discover their divine calling together? The next morning, Mary awoke to the sound of birds singing outside their window. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, creating a warm glow in the room. She glanced over at James, still peacefully sleeping beside her. A sense of purpose washed over her. Today was the day they would begin their journey of faith, not just for themselves, but for others seeking light in the darkness. After breakfast, Mary and James sat at their small kitchen table. Mary's heart raced with anticipation. "Let us make a plan," she said, her voice bubbling over with excitement. "We can start by reaching out to our neighbors. There's a woman down the street, Mrs. Wilkins, who lost her husband last year. I think she could really use some companionship." James nodded slowly, the weight of uncertainty still present but now softening. "And what about the community center? They often look for volunteers." A thoughtful expression crossed his face. "We could help with the after-school program for kids." "Absolutely," Mary said, her eyes shining. "Children need love and guidance. Who knows what seeds of faith we can plant there?" As the minutes turned into hours, their conversation flowed like a river, nourishing their growing vision to serve. They spoke about gathering food items for the less fortunate, organizing community prayer meetings, or perhaps starting a small book club focused on spiritual growth. The excitement in the air was palpable. It felt as if hope itself was dancing around them, urging them to take bold steps. James was still carrying a faint shadow of doubt, but he found himself leaning into Mary's enthusiasm. They were crafting a tapestry of purpose together, one stitch at a time. After making a list of ways to serve, they decided to step outside, their footsteps light with renewed energy. The sun hung high in the sky, illuminating their path as they strolled down their quiet street. Birds flitted about, chirping away, seemingly cheering them on. When they reached Mrs. Wilkins' house, Mary knocked gently on the door. After a moment, a frail but warm smile greeted them. "Oh, it's so lovely to see you too," Mrs. Wilkins exclaimed. Her eyes sparkled, even though they bore the weight of loss. "Mrs. Wilkins, we were wondering if you'd like some company," Mary offered, her heart swelling with compassion. "Maybe we could come by for tea?" "Oh, I'd love that. I've been feeling rather lonely lately," she replied, her voice tinged with gratitude. James watched as Mary's compassion unfolded like petals of a flower, revealing the beauty of service. He felt a flicker of warmth in his heart, perhaps stepping into the light might bring them both clarity. They spent the afternoon sipping tea and sharing stories. Mrs. Wilkins opened up about her life, the joys of her marriage, and the healing she was seeking. Slowly, a bond formed between them, rich with shared laughter and tears. Later that evening, back in their home, James turned to Mary, a new understanding dawning on him. "It's incredible," he said thoughtfully. "Just by showing up, we've already made a difference. It feels like we're part of something bigger." Mary nodded, feeling the truth of his words. "Yes. That's it. This is exactly how we find our calling, by serving others. We're planting seeds of hope everywhere we go." As they prepared for bed, Mary felt the stirring of something deep and profound within her spirit. She had stepped into faith, but what lay ahead of them? A new adventure awaited, calling them to trust even more. "James," she whispered, voice trembling with excitement. "What happens when we really start believing? What if we find things we never expected?" He looked into her eyes, and for the first time, Mary saw an unguarded glimmer of faith. The possibilities loomed large, sparking both excitement and trepidation. "Let us find out," he replied, his voice steady now. He took her hand, and together they held on to the thread of anticipation weaving through their future. What miracles might unfold as they continued to walk in faith, illuminating the lives of others? Would they uncover the divine secrets hidden just beyond their reach? The sun rose the next day, casting rays of light through the window, filling their small home with an unspoken promise. Mary felt an invigorating energy surging within her. Today was not just another ordinary day, it was a chance to dig deeper into their newfound calling. After breakfast, Mary gathered a few supplies, excited about their first community outreach meeting scheduled at the center later that afternoon. She looked over at James, who was still in the midst of reading the Bible. He turned the page and smiled, sensing her morning eagerness. "Are you ready for today?" Mary asked, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "I am," he replied, placing the book down. "I've been thinking about what we could bring to the meeting. Maybe we could share what we've learned from Mrs. Wilkins?" Mary clapped her hands together, thrilled at the idea. "That's perfect. We can tell them how just one small act of kindness can breathe life into someone's weary heart." As the hours flew by, anticipation filled the air around them. They prepared their thoughts, their hearts open to guidance. The community center stood proud against the backdrop of the blue sky, a hub of activity and a beacon of hope where lives intertwined. As Mary and James entered the building, the atmosphere pulsed with energy. Lively chatter and laughter echoed, but a serene undercurrent flowed, a mutual recognition of the journey they all shared. They felt it too, something divine stirring, golden and warm. People greeted them warmly, smiles ready to ignite connections. As they gathered in a circle, Mary felt the weight of every person's story resting in her heart. They shared, one by one, the struggles, the joys, and the tiny miracles that had woven their lives together. It was a kaleidoscope of human experience, interlaced with threads of faith. When it was their turn to speak, James cleared his throat, his pulse quickening. "We wanted to share a little about our encounter with Mrs. Wilkins. She taught us the power of simply being present with someone." It was he hesitated to find the right words, healing, for all of us. Mary picked up where he left off, her voice steady. "We realized that sometimes we don't need grand plans or solutions. Just showing up, being there, that can spark a light in someone else's darkness." Their words hung in the room, delicate yet profound. They watched as nods of understanding and glimpses of hope spread from person to person. The unity was palpable as people began to share their own stories of small acts of kindness that had changed their lives. One woman, tears shimmering in her eyes, stood up. "I felt so lost, but after I helped a neighbor with groceries last week, it was like the clouds lifted. I realized I could still make a difference, even with the little things." A spontaneous ripple of sharing and encouragement echoed through the circle. Each story, like a note in a beautiful melody, built upon the last, stirring souls toward a common purpose. Hours flew by, and before they knew it, the sunlight began to fade outside. Yet inside, the room was aglow with the warmth of shared connection and renewed faith. As they walked home that evening, Mary felt a sensation of joy blooming inside her. "Today was amazing, James." It felt like something significant was set into motion. "Can you feel it?" "Yes," he replied, clasping her hand tightly. "Something unexplainable but tangible. It's like we ignited a spark." The weight of joy and wonder rested heavily on them both. They had sown seeds today, and who knew how they would grow in God's garden? As they reached their door, Mary looked back at the sunset, painted with hues of orange and pink. What if we could keep this spirit alive? Could we find more ways to reach out? James nodded thoughtfully, his heart quickening. "We could start a community garden, perhaps? A place to cultivate love along with vegetables." Mary's eyes widened with delight. "What if we invite them all? Imagine the connections we could build." And just like that, the next chapter began to unfold, daring them to step even further into their calling. What new doors would open as they took this leap? What wondrous plans did God have in store for them now? The next morning dawned with a vibrant energy, the sky a canvas splashed with pastel hues. Mary couldn't help but smile as she stood by the window, sunlight streaming in and filling her with a sense of purpose. The idea of the community garden danced in her thoughts like a fluttering butterfly. She turned to find James already up, jotting down notes in his journal. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, cuddling into the warmth of the moment. "I'm sketching out some plants for the garden. I want it to be more than just a place to grow fruits and vegetables. I want it to be a gathering spot, a sanctuary of sorts," he said, his eyes shining with inspiration. Mary felt a warmth spreading within her as she envisioned neighbors coming together, sharing not just gardening tips but moments of laughter and stories, roots intertwining just like the plants they hoped to cultivate. "We could even host workshops. Teach cooking classes with what we grow. Imagine children learning to plant seeds they'd grow up with such a love for nature and community." Her excitement hung in the air, buoying James' spirit. Yes. It could be a way to connect hearts, to help people realize they're part of something bigger. As they finished their breakfast, they strategized how to approach their neighbors, thinking through each possibility. The sheer act of sharing their dream felt like a prayer, sending a ripple of intention into the universe. Later that day, they knocked on doors, inviting people to gather for a community meeting at the center to discuss the garden. Faces lit up with curiosity and enthusiasm. The couple could feel a buzz in the atmosphere, a tangible hope growing alongside their seeds of intention. The evening meeting turned out to be filled with laughter and eager ideas. Neighbors passionately discussed their thoughts, with some suggesting plants they loved, while others spoke of their childhood memories of gardening with family. Each voice added a new layer, creating a rich tapestry of community that warmed Mary's heart. Sitting amidst the gathering, Mary glanced around. She witnessed glimmers of God's love reflected in every smile, every shared story. "What if we called it Garden of Grace?" she suggested, her voice bright with conviction. The name was met with resounding agreement, echoing through the room like a sweet melody. As plans solidified, James couldn't shake the feeling of something deeper at play. He had been reflecting on the miracle of connection, the divine threads weaving their lives together. What if, James started, hesitating slightly, each plant represents a person in our community. As they grow, we grow together. Mary nodded, an understanding blooming. Like a spiritual garden, where we nurture each other, not only the plants. Their conversation suddenly paused as an elderly man stood up, his voice shaking yet clear. I've lived here for years and can't remember the last time we felt this connected, this alive. With those words, Mary felt a surge of empathy, like the presence of God enveloping them. It reminded her how essential these connections were to faith. It's about more than just the vegetables, she thought, her heart swelling. They ended the meeting with prayer, asking for guidance and a blessing over their plans. The spirit in the room felt electric, and as they dispersed, Mary and James exchanged glances, their hearts ready for whatever came next. As they walked home, hand in hand, Mary couldn't help but dream about what the future held, the potential of the garden blossoming into something beyond their imagination. But a small thought crept in. What if we didn't stop at the garden? What if we branched out into other areas of need? James considered this deeply, a twinkle in his eye. You're right. There are so many ways to serve and uplift one another. With that, a greater vision began to unfurl in their hearts, just as God had intended. They looked up at the stars coming to life overhead, wondering how their dream would evolve. What surprising adventures lay ahead? What paths would God illuminate? Next, as they stepped forward? The following day arrived draped in celebration. Birds chirped hymns of joy outside their window, and Mary awoke with thoughts of the community garden swirling in her heart. The excitement was palpable, a gentle nudge from the divine urging her onward. As she prepared breakfast, Mary felt a sense of urgency, not just for the garden, but for the other ideas dancing in her mind. James, when we gather again, let us talk about what else we can do to help our neighbors. I feel a stirring in my spirit to reach even farther, she said, her voice bright with purpose. James looked up from his journal, his interest piqued. What do you have in mind? I don't know yet, but I sense there are so many needs around us. Perhaps a food drive or a clothing exchange. A place where people can share not just seeds, but what they have to offer each other. He nodded, reflecting on her words. You're dreaming bigger, and that's beautiful. God moves in mysterious ways, right? Let us pray about it. They bowed their heads together, inviting God's vision into their evolving plans. With each whisper of hope, Mary envisioned a community not only growing plants but growing hearts, deepening ties through shared blessings. As the sun climbed higher, lit by divine grace, they set out to gather ideas from their neighbors once more. Each door they knocked on was met with enthusiasm, and as they pitched their renewed vision, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. One neighbor, an elderly woman named Clara, listened intently. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke. You know, my husband and I always had a dream to share our garden surplus. It seems like you're bringing that spark back. Mary felt the warmth of connection radiate from Clara's words, her spirit swelling with anticipation. Yes. We can work together to share our harvest, she replied, excitement bubbling within her. Others chimed in, sharing their own dreams, art classes for kids, movie nights in the park, and book swaps. Each suggestion was like a petal unfolding, revealing a vibrant bouquet of community potential. Later that week, they organized a gathering under the large oak tree at the center of their neighborhood. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the world in golds and pinks, dozens of neighbors arrived, bringing their ideas and hopes. Laughter blended with music as people mingled, creating an atmosphere thick with love and connection. Mary stood before them, her heart pounding with a hopeful rhythm. Tonight, we not only gather for a garden. We come together as a family. This is our chance to uplift one another, to fill in the gaps in each other's lives. A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. James smiled, his hand resting reassuringly on Mary's back, their unity a powerful testament to faith in action. As the night unfolded, they shared stories, fears, and dreams around a vibrant makeshift fire pit. There were moments of silence, to reflection instilled by the shared prayers that echoed in the air, blessings spoken into existence. Amidst the laughter, James paused, looking around at the gathering. There's a force here, something greater than us, he said, sensing the Spirit's presence moving among them, a stirring that resonated deep within. Mary's heart raced. What if this is just the beginning? What if God leads us to even greater needs? There might be a purpose we haven't seen yet. What doors might He open next? James pondered out loud, eyes shining with possibility. As the last embers of the fire flickered and the stars began to twinkle above, Mary and James exchanged glances. They felt it then, the stirring winds of change, whispering secrets of a divine journey yet to unfold. What could be waiting beyond their community garden? What other hidden treasures might they uncover as they stepped forward in faith? The dawn of the next day arrived soft and gentle, wrapped in a sweet allure of expectation. Mary awoke early, her heart still dancing with the memories of the night before. Had it really been just a gathering? To her, it felt monumental, like the first breath of spring after a long winter. Over breakfast, James sat across from her, his eyes alight with wonder. "Do you think others felt the same stir we did? That sense of something bigger?" Mary placed her hand over her heart, the warmth of connection still ebbing through her. "Absolutely. Together, we witnessed a glimpse of God's love in action. Each person stepped forth with their own light." James leaned back, lost in thought. What if we took the next steps? What if we focused our energy on one shared goal, something uniting? Like a community project? Her excitement pulsed in the air. We could invite everyone to contribute talents, resources, time. What if we created a space where everyone felt included, where we could share our stories and gifts? The more they talked, the more Mary could feel God drawing back the veil on his intentions. Ideas sprinkled like raindrops, nourishing their vision. They could start with the garden, extend it with a community pantry, or even host workshops where talents could flourish. They could ignite a movement of compassion that reached beyond their immediate circle, breathing life into every crevice of their neighborhood. They set out again that day, now with a focus to invite their neighbors into the dream they had been cultivating. Knock after knock echoed through the halls of homes, and with each meeting, they found themselves entangled in the lives of others. They met Raphael, who longed to teach music to the youth, but felt trapped by doubt. Mary recommended they host music classes under the oak tree, giving the children a chance to learn and express themselves. The spark in Raphael's eyes reminded her of the elderly Clara, who whispered about sharing their garden surplus, dreams embedded deep yet yearning for life. Marissa and her husband spoke of a desire to knit blankets for those in need, while a young couple shared hopes of organizing game nights to foster old friendships and new connections. Each exchange became a breath of fresh air, a glimpse into their hearts and a thread connecting their souls. That evening, as they gathered once more under the large oak, Mary felt it again, the palpable closeness of God's presence. Every voice layered atop the other, prayers laced with laughter, humble confessions of dreams and fears mingled with the sweet fragrance of blossoming night. "Isn't it incredible?" she said, gathering everyone's attention. "Our dreams, they're small components of a much larger tapestry. Together, we can weave something vibrant and beautiful. This is our moment to step into God's heartbeat, to truly manifest something divine." A sudden hush fell over the crowd. The flickering firelight illuminated their faces, and Mary locked eyes with James. He nodded slightly, an acknowledgement of unity and divine purpose shared between them. In that silence hung a question, heavy yet transformative: what would God do next with their humble offering? As they closed the evening in prayer, Mary felt a swell in her spirit, an unmistakable urging that the next steps would not just be actions but miracles in disguise. The winds of change were calling, and she could hear the rustling leaves urging them forward. What if this was merely the prelude to something astonishing? What divine fire awaited them just beyond their dreams? The air crackled with anticipation as the night encircled them in faith's embrace. The sun's embrace on the following morning felt like a warm blessing as it poured through Mary's window. There was a promise in the light, a whisper of hope and potential. She rose with a sense of urgency in her heart, the shared dreams of last night pulsing with new life. Today is the day, she thought, almost breathlessly. When James arrived, he carried with him an energy unlike before, an electrifying confidence budding with each step he took. "I can feel it, Mary. We need to share what we're creating. It's time to put our plan into action." Mary couldn't help but smile. "Yes. Let us gather everyone again. Let us lift our dreams up and bind them together." They moved through the day as if guided by a divine hand. Their neighborhood, once a patchwork of separate lives, felt like the heart of a growing family. They posted invitations, sang songs of hope, and spread the word, every interaction marked by genuine love and openness. That evening, as they gathered for the second time beneath the great oak, the air was thick with excitement. Families shared stories of what they had been doing. The youth assembled around Raphael, listening wide-eyed as he introduced them to the rhythm of music. Clara dug into her garden's treasures, excited to share vegetables with those in dire need. Every act of kindness wove threads of unity into the air. "Look around," Mary urged, her voice rising over the laughter and chatter. "This is a new beginning. God is building something wonderful. Each of us plays a role in this divine tapestry." Marissa turned to the crowd, her hands cradling her knitting. "And together we can expand this warmth. Who here wants to join our blanket drive?" Hands shot up as excitement stirred. One voice held a note of reverence. "Can we pray before we start?" It was a simple request, yet it reverberated deeply within everyone. In that moment, the chatter dimmed to a tender quietness. As they bowed their heads, Mary felt a pulse of love envelop the gathering. The energy shifted, hearts opened, laid bare. The sound of soft breaths turned into an anthem of hope, a prayer rising like incense toward heaven. "Lord," she whispered, "we come together with humble souls, seeking to create a haven for the broken and weary. Use our hands, use our hearts." As the prayer echoed, a gentle breeze swept through, inviting an awe-striking calm among the crowd. They sensed the divine presence. It lingered in the spaces between the words, connecting each heart to the other. When they finished, there was a collective exhale. Tears glistened in eyes, unshaken spirits drawn closer to God's embrace. Each person felt seen, valued, part of something grander than themselves. James stepped forward, his voice catching gently with emotion. "This isn't just a project, it's a revival. God has set ablaze a fire within us. Let us not just believe, let us act with unwavering faith." Cheers erupted in response, hearts thundering with excitement. It was infectious, like the rush of a wave hitting the shore. But as the laughter echoed through the evening, a question stirred in Mary's heart, a question that wouldn't let go. What would unfold as they stepped deeper into this beautiful unknown? What miracles lay just at the horizon, waiting for their faith to ignite them? The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to their fervent hopes. God had written their stories anew, but the next chapter still waited to be revealed. What awaited them on this journey of faith? As the days turned into weeks, the Garden of Grace blossomed into a vibrant sanctuary for the community. Each morning was filled with the sound of laughter and hard work as neighbors pooled their talents, nurturing not only plants but their bonds of friendship. Mary and James watched in awe, their hearts swelling with gratitude for the blossoming connections around them. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, they gathered again beneath the oak tree. The air hummed with anticipation as everyone settled in for their regular meeting. They shared updates about their initiatives, blanket drives, food collections, and music classes, all emphasizing the goodness that thrived when hearts poured love into the world. Mary stood before the crowd, her heart racing with excitement and unity. "Look at what we've accomplished," she said, her voice ringing clear. "Together, we have created a community bursting with love. This isn't just about a garden, it's about transforming lives." As she spoke, the faces around her lit up, their eyes sparkling with appreciation. Clara, the elderly woman with the green thumb, stood up with pride. "I've never felt so connected before. Not only are we growing food, but we're nurturing souls." Encouraged by the response, James chimed in, "We're witnessing miracles that go beyond our imagination. What if we expand our dreams even further? Let us plan a community celebration, a day to share our progress, to foster connections and to invite those who haven't felt our light yet." The crowd erupted in applause, their excitement palpable. The seed of a grand vision was planted, and they began to brainstorm. With each idea that blossomed, they realized the potential for their movement to ripple beyond their village, touching lives far and wide. As night fell, glowing lanterns adorned the tree, creating an ethereal ambience. The warmth of community enveloped them, and an intoxicating sense of purpose surged through their hearts. The gathering culminated in prayer, lifting their voices together in a harmonious chorus, inviting God's continued guidance. "Lord, thank you for the blessings you've intertwined in our lives," Mary prayed, tears glistening in her eyes. "Let this celebration be a beacon of hope, a testament to what we can achieve when we unite in love. Guide us as we cast our nets deeper, bringing all who need your light into our fold." A hush fell over the crowd, the air thick with reverence. As they opened their eyes, the unspoken weight of hope settled in their midst, a promise that things would never be the same again. Weeks flew by in breathtakingly beautiful fashion, and with each passing day, the celebration grew closer. The heart of the village swelled with eager anticipation, uniting neighbors from all corners, the old, the young, the seekers, and the broken, each brought together under a canopy of love. On the day of the celebration, the garden overflowed with vibrant produce, handmade decorations, and laughter. Families gathered around tables laden with food, sharing stories. Mary and James moved through the crowd, witnessing the transformation as people found solace in one another, sprinkled throughout by moments of connection and divine laughter. "I can hardly believe this," James exclaimed, gazing at the bustling life that surrounded them. "This is what we prayed for, change that radiates joy." Just then, a newcomer approached them, a somber look on his face. "I felt lost," he confessed, his voice trembling. "But seeing your unity today, it reminded me that I'm not alone. I want to help. I want to be a part of this." Mary felt a swell of warmth in her chest. "You're already part of this. Just by being here, you've added your light. Welcome to our family." As others joined in, they gravitated toward the collective energy. A tapestry of lives intertwined, each thread holding its own purpose within the grand design. At that moment, Mary sensed what she had been longing for, the realization that transformation was not only happening in her home but blossoming throughout the entire village. The culmination of dreams, prayers, and hopes had unveiled an unstoppable force of love traveling through their community. As the day drew to a close, laughter mingled with tears of joy, and hope glittered like the twinkling stars overhead. They knew beyond doubt that their journey had just begun and that they were merely scratching the surface of what God had in store. And in that moment, as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, Mary took James's hand, their eyes sparkling with faith and love. They had unlocked the divine potential hidden within themselves, discovering the significance of each act of kindness. "We've been called to greater things," James whispered, the warmth of joy filling the space between them. "Let us continue to share this light, to help everyone find their place." With purpose set in their hearts and hands clasped in unity, they stepped boldly into the future, ready to embrace whatever miracles awaited on their journey of faith. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive faith stories of love and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, help those in need find this powerful message. Comment your reactions and testimonies about today's beautiful ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of hope. Only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting this channel through your actions.